Hi, we're here in central Westminster at Entrepreneurial Hub, The Hub, and I'm here joined by Indy co-founder. How are you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. So we're at The Hub. It's nearly completed. It's just about there. We've still got some stuff going on, but we can sort of see it taking place. How does this differ to all the other hubs around the world?
I think it's an iteration. The Hub is not a kind of recipe. It's effectively a sort of organic model. Version 1 grew up in London, in Islington. That was the first hub in the world. There's 30 of them around the world. They all are locally owned. They're all locally sort of driven. They're all very hyper contextual.
Yeah.
So I think there is a sort of there's always going to be a particular flavour to this. Flavour which is, this one is very particular in the way we've done it. It's all wiki. This is a wiki house that's being built.
That's awesome.
All CNC routed, using digital fabrication.
Right.
All the tables are effectively open source tables which are digitally routed.
The tables are great.
Yeah.
The tables are one of my favourite parts.
It's a bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
But so the Hub is kind of a global infrastructure. There's 30 of them around the world, but it's not a franchise model like Starbucks or effectively anyone else. It's all locally financed, locally built. But actually now, within a few months, there'll be an infrastructure where VCs from San Francisco can talk to people in London and vice versa.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really key.
But it took us 4 years to build that platform, right?
Well, how does it differ from a franchise? I mean,
So the difference is, so there's two differences. One, the obligation from every new hub builder is to effectively make it better. So we don't want a copy. There is no single architect of the hub. There is no single model that we want you to repeat. We say this is what we've learned. Your obligation is make it better. So franchise different one. Two, actually the most fundamental thing is if you're a franchise, you also own the franchise. It's a mutual model. So it's all locally financed. It's all locally built, which means that it's always led in a hyper contextual. You have local social networks, local people, local VCs, locally financed. It has its authentic relationship in the local environment as opposed to being a centralized rollout model, which means that we can be highly contextual, highly driven, and highly connected.
yeah, and this idea of networking.
Yeah.
How does the hub differ? I mean, you mentioned there's potential to have VCs, connections with VCs all over the world.
Yeah.
How does the contextual relationship between people work in the hub specifically?
So, I mean, the big theory of change at the center of the hub is that we're trying to amplify a peer-to-peer economy. So we're not trying to drive this idea of sort of we know it all. We believe that, so the people in the room, you'll get coders, you'll get investors, you get designers, you get creatives. We like to mix that up. We like to have somebody who's writing a science fiction novel about the future, as much as somebody who's doing some really hard coding into the architecture, because we think that conversation is really powerful. So what we do share is people with a singular purpose. So we talk about change makers rather than just entrepreneurs, because we think that mix of capability is really important. People that can tell really good stories are as important as people who can write really powerful code. So that's a key difference. We host a space, so the role of the host is to connect people. So it'll go, hey, Stephen, why don't you talk to Mike over there? Because actually you guys have a lot in common. So the kind of ambient trust and the ambient connectivity is really important. That's why we don't but if you fill the room with architects, what would you get? Competition. Whereas if you have diverse capabilities, you get a lot of collaboration going on. So that's a key component. So there's a physical side of hosting that network and building that network. The first 12 founders have a huge impact on the nature and the culture of that environment. So here, for example, we spent a lot of time in getting those networks here and getting the diversity of the networks. We promote and structure the diversity of the network. But also, it's not about diversity, it's also the diversity of the conversation. So we have people talking about collapse economics as much as we have people talking about lean startups. Because what we wanted to frame is effectively the plurality of the debate and allow the kind of leakage of conversation to occur rather than saying this is what truth looks like. And that's a really core important.
Yeah, and I think the space lends itself to that because, I mean, we can't quite see all of it, but it does expand around the corner and everywhere. There's a lovely little kitchen. There's kind of open space. And it does lend itself to that sense of interaction, which I think is
which
key.
is the heart. Even the tables, the way we design pedal tables. So actually you have people sitting there next to each other who are possibly not working together. Like there's lots of tables, people not working together, not working on the same project, but sit serendipitously close. Why do we do 4 o'clock teas? So 4 o'clock teas when your sugar low level happens. So you get up, have a coffee. Actually at that moment in time you get nice soft soft ambient interactions. So the design is really into the ambient interactions between people. That's really, really important. And that's that model flows through everything. So whether it's effectively even the funding model that we're doing, the angel VC funding model is based on peer funding. So what we have is we put £100,000 in between 12 entrepreneurs, and they decide who gets invested in. So over a 12-week period. And that's been tried out in all parts of the world. We did our first rounds of investment actually on Monday. 2 businesses got invested in, two £50,000 investments happened on Monday, entirely driven through a peer-to-peer model. So we're trying to change due diligence models to be actually generated by entrepreneurs, not by VCs.
Yeah.
And the role of the VC is to structure the program and actually structure the process over that 12-week period where the decisions are made. So we're fully driving how do we do a peer-to-peer amplified economy as opposed to the Dragon's Den model.
Yeah.
How do we step away from that?
That's really interesting. Well, we'll have to see how that works out and develops and catch up with you at a later date. But it was lovely to meet you, Indy.
Real pleasure.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Become a change maker and come down to the hub.